Hello, leader. It's Shannon with Team KLC, here to welcome you to another fabulous episode of the Fierce Factor podcast. This week, we're bringing you a bonus replay of one of our most loved episodes, packed with the kind of bold insight, unapologetic truth, and business wisdom our listeners can't get enough of. We're all about empowering women to lead with intention, build life-first businesses, and define success on their own terms. And this episode is no exception. Whether it's your first time hearing it or the reminder you didn't know you needed, we're excited to reshare this powerful conversation from the archives. Without further ado, enjoy this bonus replay episode of the Fierce Factor podcast.
Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. I wanted to make sure this was a very special episode this week as a milestone episode. I can't believe it, number 200. I really prayed for God to deliver the message He needed you to hear. So this message is for my soul sister entrepreneurs out there who are building multi-million-dollar empires while leading the vision, carrying the business, managing the people, mothering the children, wifing the partner, and wearing the million other hats that you are so beautifully balancing. Let me start by saying, I see you. You're the one who just gets shit done. So rarely do others spontaneously offer you help, ask how you're really doing, or lend you an unsolicited break. You step up when things are tough and sometimes even unmanageable for others to handle. And you're often the last one people think to have concern about. And because of this, you live in a constant state of proactive initiation. You get up and you go. You make things happen. And because you are that kind of unicorn, there's always more to do. And so by the time you call me, it's already a 911 emergency because you live in a perpetual state of busy. In fact, your comfort zone is chaos. Your endorphins, well, they're derived from your vision board, and your dopamine hit comes from results. Does this sound familiar, goddess? Well, like I said, I see you in the mirror every single morning. What I also know about you is that in quiet moments, you desperately crave slowness, stillness, and genuine recognition for who you really are. Not for what you're building or the gift you give others or the sales pitch about why someone needs more of you to represent more of them. And if that's true, I'll also guess that not only do you not know how to make that vision a reality, but you probably don't even let yourself live in that headspace long enough to imagine how that could feel. That's why you routinely feel let down by others. You feel pulled in multiple directions at once, and you believe if you're not in the driver's seat, be it the vision, the management, the negotiation, anything, just won't happen in quite the same way. I get it. I just got back last night from a recharging girls trip to Florida to hang with my sisters and see and catch up with an industry colleague. It was incredible. But ironically, while I was away, California experienced record rainstorms. And so I was texting home constantly, making sure someone would take the puppies out so that they didn't have accidents in the house. Probably didn't think that's where I was going, right? But pugs, they do not like having wet paws. But seriously, what would happen if I just chose not to worry about that? For some reason, we don't consider that data point when we decide that if we don't manhandle it, someone else will forget or screw it up. I remember calling home one business trip when I was away and Chad had made the boys peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on hot dog buns. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, these poor boys. And now it's one of our favorite memories to talk about. For me, letting go has been one of my biggest challenges and one thing I have been working very hard on over the past year. I was mentioning this to my sisters over the weekend, and in true sister fashion, they assured me I was the only one with that problem. They didn't have that. So for that, I think they're both in denial. Like many of the women who come to us for help scaling up their business, or in some cases, multiple businesses. Now, that irony is not lost on me. I think sometimes we confuse growth with speed. We know intellectually that we need to be agile and execute quickly to keep a competitive advantage, but then there's no time to take the foot off the gas pedal because there's too much in the works. And the reality is, sustainable results take time. You can't actually rush them. So moving quickly without giving your inputs time to cultivate is like planting a vineyard and digging it up before the grapes are even ripe. I learned much about this concept by spending some time in wine country. It typically takes 3 years for a newly planted grapevine to start even producing fruit. So that means if you want to make wine, you won't even have the main ingredient for producing that wine for several years. Then there's the whole ensuing process requiring harvesting, destemming, crushing, fermentation, clarification. Then it has to age a good cab, for 18 months or 2 years or even more before it even gets bottled. Then the flavor profile will change in the bottle and might be at its prime 10 years after bottling. So if you're 41 years old like me and you want to become a winemaker, you're likely to have grandchildren before a bottle of excellent wine, as long as the conditions are perfect. Can you imagine that production cycle? I've heard winemaking compared to creating art. And that's what building a business is for me, except it's all about the art of navigating the complexities of our mind through the process. And just like making fine wine, there's no dabbling to get a desirable result. If you only complete a part of the process, you've essentially completed nothing. And that's the main idea here. For me, letting go of control will not happen if I don't fully commit to surrendering to the process. And that means allowing myself to embrace the outcome. I've had to learn how to increase my tolerance for failure and to create a safety net for my team to fail and for them to feel encouraged to push themselves to limits that could even allow them to get to that point.
Hi, leader. Shannon with Team KLC here. If you're the one everyone turns to, but you're fighting battles no one sees, this is for you. You're hitting 7 figures, your practice is thriving, but inside, you're drowning. Your driven, scrappy team trusts your vision completely, and that weight of responsibility feels heavier every day. Clients expect perfection while you're questioning every decision, and that voice in your head keeps whispering, what if I'm not cut out for this level? Here's what no one tells you about scaling a high-end aesthetics or wellness practice. If you don't transform how you lead, your business will plateau while your stress skyrockets. You didn't build $1 million practice to feel like you're faking it every single day. That's exactly why we created Spark, 5 days of intensive recalibration for practice owners who refuse to lead from a place of imposter syndrome anymore. This isn't about adding more to your already overflowing plate. This is about becoming the leader your success demands you to be, the one who makes decisions with unshakable confidence, even when the market shifts, your competition gets aggressive, and your team needs you to be their rock. Spark starts August 18th, and honestly, if you're still questioning whether you belong at the top of this industry, you can't afford to miss this. Register now at klcconsultants.com/spark and get ready for your leadership transformation. Because your practice deserves a leader who shows up as powerfully as the results you deliver.
So leader, where are you in your life only half committing? Are you wanting to scale but not ready to hire and pay people to do their job? Do you desire to scale back but won't allow your team to take over? Are your core values stashed in a drawer somewhere or something you talk about instead of something you hold as firm standards by which you operate? Do you know deep down that you have operational inefficiencies or team members who are not generating profit or vendors who are ethically misaligned with you, but they hold political power, or maybe you're just too busy to find someone else to work with? Is your schedule too overwhelming with patient care that you aren't making the critical time you need to work on your business, to think and plan, and to mentor your people? If you were a winemaker, you would need to wait 3 years for your vines to grow, and then you would have to prune the wood back to allow more nutrients to flow to the grapes. In fact, you would have to cut back perfectly good grapes to allow for even better grapes to grow. Fingers crossed they do. Can you imagine? Here you've probably walked in your vineyard daily. I mean, I would be stampeding through that little business, measuring the water intake, the climate, plowing the soil, monitoring the nutrients, right? Just then to have to cut the harvest in half. If you cut off all the dead parts of your business or eliminated what was just good to make room for great, what would be left? Are you even brave enough to ask yourself that question? Are you brave enough to say no, to turn down an opportunity that looks good on paper, but doesn't fully align with who you are? Or what if you let go altogether? What would happen? Nah, holding on to the reins feels way more comfortable, right? And some women not only want to hold on to the reins, but they want to use this obligation as their crutch to not go all in on leveling up. When I talk about leveling up, I don't mean making another $1 million this year. I mean, shifting identity into the woman who is capable of incubating and nurturing that kind of growth. That woman, she has to be self-assured and clear and convicted. She must have a strong ability to emotionally self-regulate. She'll need to eliminate complexity in her systems and cut dead weight. She'll need to have more direct and meaningful conversations with others. She'll need to set ruthless boundaries and commit to holding others accountable to them. She'll need to eliminate the hurry and become strategic about her growth, her time, and her investments. And she'll need to ask herself bigger questions about who she really wants to become through this process. For women who already know how to run a business, this is where the real work begins. This is where highly successful women meet their nemesis. It's where women who felt competitionless begin to feel insecurities because leveling up doesn't look as sexy on paper as it did before. Or maybe it doesn't feel the way they imagined it would feel. So the real work isn't really about the tactics. It isn't about the next thing. This is where these same women who felt supported and encouraged by their peers begin to sense passive-aggressive energy. And this is where women who have poured into their team might begin to experience entitlement or even betrayal. Alex Hormozi talks about this lonely middle. I love this analogy, right? It's the situation where you've outgrown the people you're around now, but not yet grown into the person you need to be, who is ready to build the ecosystem and the inner circle that you desire to be a part of. It's this lonely middle. And I found this to be one of the most deceptive places to be because women start judging themselves for being there, like dealing with the same challenges from the past and feeling like they shouldn't be dealing with those same challenges at the level they're at now. And this is where the majority of founders stay in this cycle of stagnation because it feels much more comfortable to revert back to old habits. What's that saying? Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And it's often so subconscious, where it becomes preferable to deal with a person or a situation that's familiar, even if they're not ideal, rather than risk something that could be worse. Because we're programmed to take preference for the familiar risks over unknown possibilities. Instead of going all in, we take that baby step backward and half commit. Can you relate? I know many of the women we talk to and many of my colleagues who have achieved this level of discomfort consider this to be the precipice of ruin. It's where the highest achievers go to seek thought partnership and coaching and pause and work through their emotions, their loneliness, their frustrations, to ask better questions, to shift their identity. But the majority will continue on the hamster wheel, trying to get where they are, trying to go so fast that they don't even recognize they're in this place. They hurry on looking for more knowledge instead of looking for someone who will push them to expand their vision, because they essentially lack the perspective to understand the crucial significance of fully committing to a process. Maybe they'll download free PDFs and top 10 checklists or take course after course, but never fully commit to the investment it takes to becoming the woman that they look up to and dream of becoming. They're trying to mimic someone who's already at the top of the mountain instead of lacing up their hiking boots and taking the climb that it actually requires to achieve that status. Success is not found in building a business from other people's SOPs. I can assure you that. It's cultivated by doing your own unsexy, boring, basic, and often painful work in this messy middle. And here's what I know. You can't afford to be in spaces where your time is wasted. And you likely don't have the right people around you to help you get to the next level. So invest in the real kind of growth that will actually move the needle. And only you know what that is. Okay, leader, congratulations for joining me for 200 episodes. I promised you 200 weeks ago that I would be all in, and you have my word that I will continue to fully commit to supporting you each and every step through this process of building the life and business of your dreams. Let me be the one who believes in you, even if you don't believe in yourself.
Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.